Good afternoon. This is Megan Barth with ReaganBabe.com. 790 Talk Now. Talk That Rocks. Coming at you live from Sin City, Las Vegas. Also 98.1 FM in Palm Springs. Now, if you've been a long-time listener, you know that every Tuesday and Thursday I take this mic for an hour and then Wayne Allen Root takes over his show at 4 o'clock. But for those that are just tuning in for the first time, perhaps you are listening beyond Palm Springs and Las Vegas on 790talknow.com, and I welcome you to the party. It's a big party we have. It's a party of the truth. I use this microphone as my blowtorch of truth in order to expose the lies on both sides of the aisle, but in particular the Democrats. You know, the Democrats lie like rugs, especially when it comes to this Obamacare fiasco that they threw this whole entire country and in turn people's lives upside down. And so there's going to be a big vote happening on Thursday on that. And, you know, is it truly repeal? Illegal immigrants will still be able to get entitlements through this health care plan. So I don't really think that's a good repeal effort. It's not introducing the free market until stage 3 or something like that. And if you want to reduce costs in health care or in any type of situation, you always introduce competition. So we will see. We have a Freedom Caucus, the conservatives that are fighting back. The bill might lose, enough votes to not pass, and they're claiming perhaps 30. And if it's 30, the bill is dead on arrival. But Donald Trump went to the Hill today to lobby for the bill in order to get at least some action and promise kept that he made to the American people. But again, full repeal is really what we're looking for. So we're going to see how this plays out. They also say the Republicans, many of the moderate Republicans like Paul Ryan, that this bill is necessary to get passed in order to bring on tax reform. And I don't really understand why we're dancing this dance. I don't understand why we're helping Democrats at all. And I said this last week, screw you, Democrats. You're the one that created this mess. You pay for it. This is your accountability, your responsibility. This is your chaos that you created in order to usher in single-payer health care. And that's exactly what Hillary Clinton would have done if she wasn't such a liar and lost the election. But, you know, I always resort back to quotes, you know, and I kind of look whether it's quotes from Reagan or quotes from Thomas Sowell or whatever conservative thinkers I can find. And one quote stands out for me, and I have it as a favorite on my Reagan Baby fan page on Facebook. And if you're not following me on Facebook, I encourage you to do so. I'm very active on my Facebook site, Reagan Baby. Also Twitter, you can tweet me Reagan_baby. But in just after this next break at about 3:20, I'm going to be joined by a conservative Latina who is going to become my first sponsor. I'm very excited. Her name is Irma Aguirre, and she is a business owner, a small business owner, who has also been impacted by Obamacare. She is also a Trump supporter. And because she was a Trump supporter and hosted him at her restaurant in a Hispanic roundtable discussion, her business was picketed. She was levied with death threats. Her employees received death threats. Her business was assaulted. Her reputation was assaulted on various social media networks like Yelp and such, where the leftists, the progressives, were leaving awful messages trying to disparage her business and create hardship. But this is what the left does when they don't get their way. They make a lot of noise, they riot, they create chaos, much like they did with Obamacare. But P.J. O'Rourke is always one of my favorite guys to go back to. He's got a sense of humor that lightens things up a bit. And this comes from a story of his, and he was with a guy by the name of Andrew Ferguson. And he says, not long after Andrew Ferguson and I met, we were driving down Pennsylvania Avenue and encountered some or another noisy pinko demonstration. How come, I asked Andy, whenever something upsets the left, you see immediate marches and parades and rallies with signs already printed and rhyming slogans already composed? Whereas whenever something upsets the right, you see two members of the Young Americans for Freedom waving a 6-inch American flag. We have jobs, said Andy. We have jobs. And isn't that so true? Because we have built such a huge entitlement class in this country, specifically with illegal immigrants, that they are demanding now that health care is a right. They are demanding now that illegal immigration be normalized. They are wrapping themselves and shrouding themselves in the Constitution, whereby they have no right to do that, especially if they don't assimilate or take active measures to become citizens. Where is it in the Constitution that says I need to pay for someone else's health care or someone else's food or subsidize someone who can't work, doesn't want to work, and is actually making more money by not working, by being on the government dole? I have a brother in Illinois. He lives in Illinois. And he started a business when he was 19 years old. And he built a really nice business in remodeling homes and restoring 19th century homes. And along the way, he picked up some homes to keep and to rent out. And what he found was that if he wanted to rent, say, a 4-bedroom home, instead of putting it on Craigslist or putting a sign out in the front yard and letting the free market pay for what he believed he could get, I think it was like $1,200 a month or something for a 4-bedroom home back in Illinois. If he converted those homes to Section 8 homes, he would get $1,600 a month from the federal government. This is no lie. $1,600 a month, as opposed to the free market offering $1,200. And most of his renters under Section 8 had big screen TVs. You know, all the women, of course, had their hair done, their nails done. They had new cars parked in the driveway. They had their SNAP cards, their EBT cards. They had their child care taken care of. And one lady in particular stood out to me from a story he told me. And it was her financial obligation under Section 8 rules and whatever the government had deemed her to pay in accordance with the rules was $20 a month towards rent. $20. Now, keep in mind, her hair is done, her nails are done, her kids are being taken care of by government dollars, our dollars. She's not working because at the time there was no work requirement for welfare in Illinois. They've since kind of changed that, I believe. And of course, she has the new TV and the new car. And she fell 3 months behind on rent. She couldn't find $60. Her hair alone was probably $100. Her cell phone bill a month was probably $100. But she couldn't find the means to pay rent. And this is the type of entitlement class that has been growing and burgeoning, especially under the last 8 years. And so when we look at government as tax-paying citizens, we aren't getting our return on the investment because, number one, government has grown so large that record numbers of tax dollars going into the government isn't reducing the debt. It isn't reducing the deficit. It isn't rebuilding our roads. It isn't providing those in need with what they need, like our veterans, our elderly. But the people that are on the government dole, the people that are in the wagon, are getting all the benefits and more. And so this is the type of government we need to start demanding. And this is why Donald Trump was elected. In order to straighten all this mess out, whether it's Obamacare, whether it's the debt, whether it's the high taxation, whether it's the foreign policy that was left in complete shambles. When he says he inherited a mess, he inherited one hell of a mess. And so while all of us working stiffs are busting our butts and we don't have time to protest and to threaten other people's businesses, after this break, I'm going to talk to Irma Aguirre. And Irma Aguirre, a small business owner of my favorite Mexican restaurant in this town in Las Vegas. If you ever come to visit, you got to check out El Sombrero, right down from Fremont Street. It's a great night to be had. She's going to join me and tell me what her experience has been as a small business owner from an economic standpoint. And then as well as a business owner, Latina supporter of Trump, and what her experience was with the radical leftists. This is Megan Barth, ReaganBabe.com, 790 Talk Now, Talk That Rocks. Welcome back. This is Megan Barth, ReaganBabe.com, coming at you live in Las Vegas, 790 Talk Now, Talk That Rocks, 98.1 FM in the Coachella Valley in Palm Springs. And, you know, I'm a California refugee. I moved to Las Vegas just under a couple years ago. And one of my first visitors was my publicist. And he also has a little side business as a food critic. And he runs a little blog for the Washington Times. And so as a food critic, he said, you know, pick out some local Las Vegas restaurants. I'll pick out some that I want to go to. And, you know, for the 5 days I'm there, we'll eat like kings and queens. And I said, okay, fine. And so I was doing some research, and I love Mexican food. It's one of my favorites besides pizza. And I stumbled across this restaurant with great reviews. And this was back in probably a year ago now, April. And I stumbled across this restaurant that just looked really good and really quaint called El Sombrero. And so I said, hey, I've got this restaurant, you know, check it out on Yelp. It's called El Sombrero. It's right up the street past Fremont on Main Street in Las Vegas. Let's go check it out. So we did one night, and he and I both were blown away. And this cat, my publicist, he is eaten at like every 5-star swanky place, you know, off the Beltway, near the Beltway, on the Beltway. And even here we went to Guy Savoy at Caesar's Palace. And that was after, I know, right? And Irma's looking at me right now. But I got to tell you, I'll pick El Sombrero over Guy Savoy any day, okay? Because that's my type of food. Like, I love Mexican food. So in studio with me, I have Irma Aguirre. She's the owner of El Sombrero Restaurant. She's politically active. She's a small business owner. And as a Trump supporter, an early on Trump supporter, when the news got out that she was a Trump supporter, all of the leftist organizations in Nevada ganged up against her on social media as well as physically. And she just showed me a picture of a Hispanic activist giving her the finger while his T-shirt says "Fight for 15." And then, of course, we have Astrid Silva, who is there to protest, as she does so often, who, if you don't know, Astrid Silva is a 28-year-old illegal immigrant, otherwise known as a dreamer, who's known Harry Reid since she was 4, but doesn't have any time to find the way to become a citizen. But she has all the time in the world to protest in front of Irma's restaurant. So Irma, welcome to the Wayne Allyn Root Show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, and thank you. You are my first sponsor.
Oh, how
so
exciting.
It is.
Proud.
Well, and I got to say, after I heard that I read in the RJ, I think it was, that it was shortly after you hosted Donald Trump for a luncheon with, I think it's a Latino organization that you're involved with here in the state or nationally?
Yes.
And which one is that?
It's the Latino Coalition. It's a national organization. It's a nonpartisan organization dedicated to reaching out to small business owners throughout the country.
Very good. Okay, so it's a bunch of Latino small business owners. And if I recall correctly, Donald Trump actually had reached out to the coalition and said...
Actually, they reached out to... the Trump campaign reached out to us directly. There were several business owners from the Las Vegas area that were invited to have an audience with Mr. Trump at the time, candidate Trump.
And so I read about this, and I'm like, okay, cool, he's coming to Vegas. And then the next thing I read is that you are being stormed by protesters. You're being assaulted. You had death threats levied against you and your employees. And so what I did after I heard that, I was so outraged that my favorite restaurant was being, targeted by the radical violent left, that I pulled out a call to action, and it seemed
worked.
like that's
all
good.
Of the Trump supporters came out in droves. In fact, it was so heartwarming because, after, listen, I've never been protested for anything ever in my life. And if you've never have been protested, it's quite alarming, to go through something like that. It's actually very terrifying. I mean, you're getting, death threats and hate mail, and, you're just verbally being accosted. And, I'm a nice person, and people are usually very nice to me. And so it was quite something to go through. But, you got on the radio and you mentioned the situation, and we had people that came in that said, I was driving on the I-15. I was listening to Megan. I was driving home, and I got off the freeway and made a U-turn. And here I am, and give me your menu, and just, I'm not even hungry, but order me whatever because I'm here to support. And that was so heartwarming to me. I saw the worst of people that week, and I saw the best of people that week.
And there really are more of us than there are of the protesters.
Well, yeah, it's been phenomenal because, I do still get a lot of Trump supporters. I don't get as many protesters anymore. So yes, so thank you very much, because that really, really helped us out.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
Sure.
And so as you were being surrounded, really, and you showed me some pictures, you not only were surrounded physically, your restaurant, the doors were somewhat blocked. They had signs, bullhorns, intimidating your customers that were trying to come in and out the door. And these are all from Plan Nevada, the Culinary Union, the SEIU, the typical leftist, radical, violent suspects.
Yeah, correct. So I would imagine, I don't know if these are volunteers or they hire these kids, to go out and, try to shame and harass businesses, small businesses like mine, who try to support our president. You listen, back then, it was just terrible because I was being harassed for participating in the political process. I am an American citizen. I was born in this country. My mother was born in this country. My grandmother was born in this country. I think I'm like the 4th or 5th generation. And politics has always been very important to me because of my father. My father always taught me to be a part of it. And he had quite a love for the political process. And he actually immigrated from Mexico at a time when it was a lot easier to immigrate, into the United States. But he loved this country, and he loved everything about it. And actually, he was a Democrat when he registered as a Democrat when he arrived here. And it was during Reagan that he switched to being a Republican, and that's how I became a Republican. So I've been a Republican ever since the day I could vote. And so being part of the political process is very important to me, and that's what I was doing on that particular day. I had a major political candidate that wanted to reach out to small businesses like mine and to speak to Latino business owners. And, I thought it was an amazing thing, a great opportunity. But not only that, I actually supported Donald Trump from the very beginning. He was my first choice from the beginning.
Why was that? Now, see, as a Latina, right, you would be categorized or labeled as something like, well, how could you be a Trump supporter as a Latina? He disparages Mexicans. And I'm sure you've heard this all before. Yes. And there are plenty of Hispanics like Irma Aguirre that were protesting your business. What do you say to those people?
Well, it is very difficult to have a conversation with people that already have that in mind, because all they want to do is to argue, vent, and, get their point across, and not really listening to my point of view. But the reason why I supported Donald Trump from the beginning is because, I've been involved in politics for quite a while, and, I was so fed up, like everybody else, with the same mumbo jumbo, canned speeches that mean absolutely nothing at the end of the day, and just a bureaucratic way of thinking and bureaucratic way of doing things. And I appreciated him coming from the private sector, and quite honestly, I mean, he was very candid with both sides. He said a lot of things to the Republicans, that they didn't like either, and to the left. So I just felt that this was a doer, and a big dreamer, a big doer, and I thought that that's something that this country needed.
And I couldn't agree more. So we're going to have to take a break, but you're going to stick around for the next segment?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, we'll be right back with Irma Aguirre, owner of El Sombrero Restaurant, a place you got to check out. This is Megan Barth, ReaganBabe.com, 790 Talk Now, Talk That Rocks. Tell me, okay, so let's get into El Sombrero a little bit because number one, I went there at night. I went there during the day, so I got to try both your lunch and dinner menus.
Mm-hmm.
I loved them both. At one time I went, I was strictly dieting, so I couldn't really remember that.
Right.
Yes. No more of that.
That day?
I think a lime.
Water, yeah, water and a lime.
Yeah, maybe a scoop of salsa. But I had everything for dinner because when I went with my publicist, he likes to order nearly everything on the menu so he can try a bunch of things. What are your favorite items on the menu? And what would you recommend?
Look, the most important thing to know about our menu is that we use fresh ingredients.
Yes,
okay?
you do.
No canned salsas or anything like that.
And you're always running to the market, right?
Well,
You always-
yes, I know, because everything's fresh.
Right.
You know, and so that's the important thing to know because you know, when we get back from, you know, shopping, we do it like 2 to 3 times a week, but I mean, we come back with, you know, carts filled with nothing but vegetables and fruits and that kind of a thing, you know, because we roast all of our veggies for our sauces, our salsas, and that sort of a thing. So yeah, that's important to know because, you know, you really don't know what you're getting out there in terms of you know, the restaurants and stuff. You know, they're always cutting back on their quality and things like that. That's something that we don't do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, cutting back, it brings me to the next one on quality, right? So you are a small business owner, and you, especially in the last 8 years of the Barack Obama administration with the high taxes, Obamacare, for example, which might not impact you because you don't have enough employees.
Right.
But there's also this talk, like the lovely Hispanic male that was protesting your business that I saw a picture of him flipping you off with a bullhorn, and his T-shirt says "Fight for 15."
Right.
And we've been taken over by, I call them the Marxists in the Nevada legislature, who are now passing all sorts of crazy bills. And one of them is for a $15 minimum wage. That's forthcoming. Tell us how, as a small business owner, that would basically decimate your business.
Well, it's not good. It's not good for the business owner, and it's not good for the consumer either because, listen, I try to pay my employees as much as I possibly can because my employees are family to me. You know, they're when they
How many employees do you have?
I have about 10.
10, yeah.
You
So it's a
know,
smaller business, yeah.
Yeah, I want them to do well. Okay, a healthy employee is, you know, is good for business. Okay, the problem is that the economy is not where it needs to be yet. It's getting there, and I have full confidence that, you know, this president is going to do amazing things for our economy. So I'm very excited about that. But it's not there yet, and it hasn't been, you know, good, you know, for the last several years. And so what happens is that, you know, if there's not enough business, and we are mandated to pay $15 an hour, we have to adjust. All we're going to do is cut back on labor costs, you know, and that means that it's bad for the employee too because they lose out on hours, right? I mean, we have to shave back somewhere.
Just like the Obamacare mandate, whereby all the employers that were required, you know, under Obamacare, right, they were only offering people 30 hours because at 40 hours, it was like the new taxes kicked in, right? So everyone could find part-time work, but no one could find full-time work.
Well, and I had a part-time person that used to have a full-time job at the Mandalay Bay. And as soon as Obamacare kicked in, he went from a full-time employee to a part-time employee. So these poor people are now having to have, you know, like 2 to 3 jobs, you know, part-time jobs to equal the kind of pay that they were making as a full-time employee. So, you know, it wreaks havoc on their personal lives. And I think it was just not a smart thing to do. And what's happening with this $15 you know, push and these activists. I mean, clearly these activists, I will bet money that they've never owned a business, you know, that they really don't understand the ramifications.
Community organizers never do.
Yeah,
do
no, yeah, exactly. It's unfortunate because they're causing more damage to the people that they say that they claim to care about. They're the ones that are going to be affected by, you know, what they're pushing. Honestly.
Well, when you see the Culinary Union, for example, with all of their matching shirts and all of their matching slogans and, getting out the vote in droves and demanding $15 an hour. Now you're in culinary, right? You're not part of the union,
Right.
but how does this? They do it in order to get probably more dues, right? So the higher, if their employees or their union members are making $15 an hour and they get a 10% cut,
Correct.
from $7.50 an hour, they just doubled their dues per person. So,
Correct. I mean, listen, this whole thing, I'm so against all of this because I think you should just let the market sort itself out. Because what happens when the economy is doing great, we have to compete for good employees, right? So actually, I don't even think I pay anybody, none of my employees make less than $15 an hour, really, because at the end of the day, when you have like a server, or a busser that makes, the minimum wage plus tips, instead of making $15 an hour, they're actually at 20 some odd dollars an hour. Right. So
that's why I waitress since I was 14.
Right.
Yeah.
It's good. It can be very good money, honestly.
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It's just going to hurt the employee. It's going to hurt the business. It's going to hurt the consumers because we have to bump up our prices in order to, make ends meet. We're drowning in regulations and, this kind of a thing. For example, just today, we have a regulation that, if you have, like most restaurants and bars have soda machines, right? Well, you have to have a CO2 tank, right? Well, now it's regulated that we are mandated to have a CO2 monitor. Okay, so just in case, the CO2 is escaping or whatever. So just for precautions, now we have to do that. Okay, fine, great. So now this new regulation requires me to go get this new CO2 monitor, except for that costs like $1,200 to install, And so it's just we're constantly being hammered every single month. It seems like something comes up.
Is this a state regulation that was just passed down or federal?
I believe so. I have to check into that, but I just learned about it. When my local
and these are all costs,
inspector,
right? Yeah, these are all costs that you aren't expecting,
little things like that. So
nickel and dime.
Yeah, nickel and diming us to death. Do you know that I can't even put a now open sign or margaritas specials for happy hour today without, I can't just slap up a sign, a little banner up on my building to say that. No, I have to go pull a permit and then they, it's like a $60 or $100 or something to that effect. I mean, just little things like that people don't realize. We get hammered. And then this $15 an hour on top of it. I mean, how do little businesses like mine survive under all of these regulations, under all of these mandates? But, you have bureaucrats, up north that have never owned a business. In theory, the $15 an hour sounds great, but at the end of the day, it's going to hurt everybody. Trust me.
Well, I loved having you on, and I hope you come on again. Yeah, and thank you. And I want to encourage everyone to go to 807 South Main Street, El Sombrero Restaurant. Grab a bite to eat and a good margarita. Your margaritas are great.
Yeah, because they're fresh.
They're fresh. They're fresh. And Irma Aguirre is fresh. I love her. All right, folks, I'll be right back after this break. And at 4 o'clock, Wayne Allen Root comes in, so don't go anywhere. 790 Talk Now, Talk That Rocks. Megan Barth, ReaganBabe.com, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Megan Barth, ReaganBabe.com, 790 Talk Now, Talk That Rocks, live from Las Vegas and in 98.1 FM in Palm Springs. Joining me on the last two segments was Irma Aguirre, small business owner, Latina, who lives in Las Vegas, owns El Sombrero Restaurant, 807 South Main Street, for some of the freshest and best Mexican food you've ever had. And believe me, I'm a connoisseur when it comes to eating. When I can eat, I eat. So I was very happy to have her to get her perspective. And, she was one of us on the right who, because we have a difference of opinion on the size and footprint of government, because we have a different opinion on who we chose to be the leader of the free world this last election, we are oftentimes assaulted, accosted, violently approached, disparaged, threatened. And this all comes from the tolerant progressives that they are. And many of them, as I was talking to Irma Aguirre, are community organizers. That's what Barack Obama was. And so if you think that these protests are going to die down, especially those of the resist movement that the ACLU is funding, you'll be sorely mistaken. And the reason being is because that's all the left really knows how to do. Last week, Wayne Allen Root was asking the question, and I don't know if he got any answers, is what have the Democrats done for small business owners? What have the Democrats really done for business owners in general? Except send out their lackeys, their violent lackeys, to protest these businesses and to demand $15 an hour minimum wage, which would decimate and cause great harm to not only the business, but the employees. If you have 10 employees making $8.50 an hour with tips making $20, and then all of a sudden the minimum wage is jacked to $15 an hour, well, then you're going to have maybe 3 employees, right? I mean, so that's what happens. You know, these fight for 15ers that are part of the Culinary Union and Plan Nevada and all the leftist George Soros funded organizations in this state, they don't either understand economics or they just simply are socialists. And I believe it's the latter. And when you look at the Washington Examiner yesterday, and I pulled this piece off for you. You aren't going to believe these numbers. Forget about $15 an hour. How about $15,000 a month to fight Trump? How about getting paid $15,000 a month to fight Trump? Headline: $15,000 a month offered to A-teams to fight Trump agenda. It's by Paul Bedard of the Washington Examiner. A group known for its successes fighting digital wars, notably net neutrality, is offering $15,000 to activists who quit their job and form A-teams to jump into a war on President Trump's agenda. Fight for the Future started in 2011 as a digital activist group. On Monday issued the offer with this eye-catching opening: terrified about Trump? Quit your job, start an A-team, we'll fund it. We're currently taking applications for an initial launch of the project and will be providing a few select teams with funding, guidance, and support, said Evan Greer, campaign director for Fight for the Future. Our goal is to spawn a movement of small, dedicated groups of people using the tactics that we've used effectively to defend internet freedom to win major victories in other areas affecting our basic rights and freedom, such as immigration, shocker, freedom of press, police brutality, drug reform, and government corruption. Where were these people during the Obama administration? It is just the latest effort by activists to fund the anti-Trump movement. Greer compared the groups to tactical special operations forces. I'm sorry, but you know what, pal? Why don't you go join, or at least try to get selected for a special operations force? He said the A-teams, presumably styled like the famed TV team, is there going to be a Mr. T, are an attempt to help incubate other special ops activist teams to tackle major issues against the backdrop of unprecedented threats in the Trump area. Oh, the terror. The online application and sales job includes a photo from the classic anti-Barry Goldwater ad of 1964, in which the world is nuked if he's elected. It urges potential activists to quit and get working against Trump. Unbelievable. A few of the initial A-teams will receive a $15,000 check for their first month. Let's see how this reads. We're still working out the details, but if you got a strong 2 to 3 person A-team and a target, we give you $15,000 right now for the first month just to see what you can do. If you make a big splash or measurable impact on your target in that time, we're pretty sure we can find you more. Now, okay, it's Tuesday, right? This reminds me of the old quote in Popeye that says, like, kind of give me for a hamburger today, I'll pay you on Tuesday or something like that. What was that kid's name? I don't remember anyway. But here's the Democrats. We're going to give you everything up front. We're going to give you $15,000. And it goes dark because they can't promise anything beyond their good intentions. You know, this is the Democrats' mantra, but it feels good. Let's do it. Don't worry about the results. Like Obamacare, Don't look at the fact that when Obamacare was passed, 8 million people lost their health care and their doctor and their insurance. Because the promise of Obamacare was so much bigger, right? Everybody's going to have health care. And no one does. So now they want everyone to quit their jobs. This, what is it? Some kind of freedom, something or other. Fight for the future. Fight for the future. Fight for the future. Quit your jobs and fight for the future. Make $15,000. After that, we don't know. You might be on your own. So the issues that this fight for the future wants to target are healthcare and the ACA. Again, where were they during Obama? Oh, the climate, of course. Of course, they're going to fight the climate. They have no control over the climate. They need to control it. So they're going to fight the climate or fight for climate or whatever. Immigration, yes, open walls. And, of course, they want to fight against the wall. Corruption, racism, fascism, police, prisons, ending the drug war, foreign policy, internet, telecom, competition, impeachment, economic populism, and renewable energy. Well, that's a long laundry list, isn't it? They're going to be awfully busy. I'm going to have to look into Paul Greer, and maybe on Thursday when I'm back, I'm going to see who funds Paul and if he's making $15,000 a month from Soros or something. This is going to get juicy. And it's going to get even more juicy when Wayne Allen Root takes this mic in a couple minutes. So stay tuned. This is Megan Barth, ReaganBabe.com. Thanks for this hour. I'll be back on Thursday, 790 Talk Now. Talk That Rocks.
All right, Wayne Allen Root, welcome to War Now. Megan Barth in with me, as always, at the beginning of the 4 o'clock hour after doing a wonderful hour to start. Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.
Wayne Allen Root, your middle-class warrior, relentless freedom fighter, capitalist evangelist, conservative rock star, and all-around lovable badass. What's this war good for? God, guns, gold, tax cuts, term limits, and Trump. That's how we save America, capitalism, and American exceptionalism. Call-in number. Anywhere in the United States now, 844-WAR-NOW-1, 844 toll-free, WAR Now 1, 844-927-6691 numerically. You can listen online at 790 Talk Now. You can listen to any shows you missed at my YouTube channel, War Now Radio. And this show is sponsored by Swiss America, the gold standard, the number one precious metals company in America. Contact Swiss America at 800-BUY-COIN or go to SwissAmerica.com. This is almost April 1st, which means April 15th is right around the corner, and that means tax day. And so you will need an IRA or a SEP IRA, and it should be in physical gold or silver. You can only get it at Swiss America at 800-BUY-COIN, 800-BUY-COIN. All right, so normally in the 4 o'clock hour, I do the world-famous Root Rant, but when Megan is here, we chat a bit together about some of the news headlines and things going on in the world today. By the way, the single biggest problem in the world today, other than Democrats, loony, unhinged, crazy Democrats, would have to be North Korea. They are
talking about loony Democrats.
They're threatening.
Kim Jong-un would run under the Democrat Party if he
and he'd win. He'd win.
Oh, he would totally win. Yeah.
Because the
diversity.
average,
we need diversity.
The average Democratic voter would say, he sounds great to me.
Right. Yeah, it's wonderful.
You ever see those Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC late night, and Jimmy Kimmel goes out and does a man on the street on Hollywood Boulevard?
Oh, yeah.
And nobody ever knows who any of the politicians are they're voting for. So they showed a picture of Joe Biden, and not one person had any idea who he was. He's been vice president for 8 years, or he was vice president for 8 years. Not one person on Hollywood Boulevard knew who he was. But more importantly, one black guy took a look at the picture and said, oh, that's got to be a Republican. And he said, why is that? He's an old white man. That's got to be a man who hates Obama. That's what he said. He's got to be. He's white and he's old, so he must be a Republican who hates Obama.
Stereotypes are racist.
Yeah. So, if they showed a picture of Kim Jong-un, they go, oh, he's a good Democrat, man. He's a good guy.
Oh, he's wonderful.
It's diversity. He's Asian. It's diverse.
And he saves electricity by, shutting off half the electricity. I mean, he's really good when it comes to climate change because the whole entire country is dark.
It's starving to death
and they only
and freezing.
have one channel. Right. Yes. He is
he's good for, that cows.
Less people.
Cows cause climate change by farting.
Right.
So there are no cows and there is no food.
And there's no food.
So there's no pollution. It's great.
Right.
It's wonderful.
And the less people, the happier the Democrats.
Yes.
But they never go first when it comes to the climate change, saving the climate. Because if they claim that people are the problems with that climate change deal, right? Then why don't they go first? There's plenty of cliffs. There's plenty of way.
Well, in Korea, in North Korea, they are going first.
Right.
He's killing them left and right.
Right.
He
Even
feeds
his
them.
brother.
He feeds them to wild dogs and boars.
Yeah.
Yes, his own brother. He killed, but in Malaysia with the shot. But with the they wiped some poison on his face.
No, they wiped the poison on his
yes,
face.
but there was a general that he decided was not loyal,
Right.
or there was something he said he just didn't like, and he fed him to, I guess, called feral pigs. Like 80 of them just attacked him and ripped him to shreds and ate him. That must have been a nice.
Wasn't
ending.
that in Reservoir Dogs?
Something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So North Korea is the perfect liberal society.
It is.
It's absolutely perfect.
Absolutely. Everyone lives in the dark.
It's green energy at its finest. Everyone's freezing. And, in America, Harry Reid likes windmills, things like that don't work, that government subsidies pay for, that create almost no energy. But in North Korea, they probably take somebody they don't like, they shoot him in the head, and they tape him to a windmill, and he goes around and around and around. And that's their source of energy. So it's great. It's perfect for liberals. I thought what else was great in the news was Sean Diddy Combs' Revolt TV music channel. I didn't know he had a TV music channel named Revolt TV, but then I'm not 18 and hip. Is being sued because white workers claim they were victims of reverse racism.
I read that headline.
5 white men who produced broadcasts of the popular morning show for Revolt TV owned by Sean Diddy Combs alleged papers filed in the Manhattan Supreme Court. They were victims of racism. Revolt treated them worse than other employees who were younger and or African American. The 39 years or older group claims they were not treated the same as other black employees, despite their experience having produced years of episodes of The Howard Stern Show. And so, very interesting. And I found that in my life, in my career, by the way. I grew up in a all-black town, Mount Vernon, New York. I was majority black, and I went to an all-black high school, 90% black. And I was tortured. I was beat up. I was threatened. I was chased home from school. Not this. You're laughing. These are knives and guns. They were torturing me with little, what do you call it? They were throwing little pelts at me. They had knives and guns. And I was almost killed 3 times, including with a machete.
It made you the man who you are today.
It did.
Right?
It did. A machete the 3rd time.
A machete?
To cut my head off. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So here's the story. Wait, you want to hear the story?
Were they Islamists?
So no. so I was in the process of becoming, I went from the guy who got chased to a guy who lifted weights all summer and got really big and learned how to fight.
Body.
And I walked in and I was really kind of rough, and I hung out with the rough Italian guys. It was 85% black and 15% Italian and 1 Jew, me. And I hung out with the Italian guys, and they wanted me to become a marshal, which is the policeman of the school. And you get a badge and you have free access to the whole school. You could do whatever you want. So I'm there during the bell is rung, it's class time, and the hallways have to be empty. You have to be in class. I'm patrolling the hallway alone with just my badge. They give you a badge, Jew and a badge. No gun, no knife, just a badge. What's a Jew supposed to do with a badge, right? So that doesn't work well. So anyway, I see a kid in the hallway. He's black, and he's smoking pot. He's just standing there smoking pot, leaning up against the glass door. So I went to the glass door, and I kicked it hard. And he fell down on the ground and tumbled on the ground. And when he got up, he pulled a machete out of his long overcoat and charged at me.
Oh, my.
And so now I'm on the ground fighting for my life. The machete is an inch from my head. My hands are on his hands, and he's trying to stick it through my brain or through my eyes. And the machete's getting closer and closer. By the way, I know it's a machete because eventually the long end of the story is I won, and I didn't die, obviously, and there's no hole in my head, so I didn't die. You get it. When we went to court, it was identified as a machete. Anything that's 9 inches or longer of a knife is defined by New York law as a machete. He was sentenced to, I believe, 3 years at a juvenile facility. And then 4 years later, after he got out, I saw his name one more time in the newspaper, killed in a car chase with police after raping a woman. So he was headed for very bad things. But my life was spared when at the moment it looked like, I wasn't winning, by the way. At the moment it looked like he was going to shove that knife through the Jew's head. At that moment, a black principal came out of his office and screamed, "Hey you, what are you doing? Drop that knife!" And he dropped it and ran. That's what saved my life. And the principal came over, grabbed me, and the two of us chased him down, and I almost died a second time. We chased them directly into an area where no one was supposed to be, and his gang was there, cutting class. And 8 guys, all with knives pulled out, switchblades, surrounded me and the high school principal, the black principal. I had my back to the principal, and the two of us were ready to fight 8 people with knives. And at that moment, the bell rang for class to end, and everybody came flooding out. And when everyone came flooding out, they dispersed and ran. And we grabbed him, brought him to the office. That kid saved my life, because guess what the result of the whole story was? The principal calls my parents in, and I'm thinking, did I get in trouble? What did I do? And tells them he's a member of a gang, and it doesn't matter what I do with this kid. He's expelled for life in this school, but his gang members are going to stick Wayne in the back with a knife, and there's nothing I could do to stop it. There ain't no way he's surviving a week. That was that principal talk. There ain't no way he's surviving a week in this school. So my parents went to my grandfather. My father was a butcher, had no money. My grandfather owned the butcher store. That's why ownership is everything in life. That's why small businessmen, a lot better to be an owner than ever work for anybody. They'd always own. He had enough money, my grandfather. He wasn't rich, but he had enough money that he could pay for me to go to a private school, which turned out to be the swankiest private school in Westchester County, New York. And I went overnight from this jungle of death to this all-white, spoiled brat, privileged high school where every kid had a multi-zillionaire father, and I just took like a fish to water.
And you were an SOB, a son of a butcher.
Became friends with all of them, learned fast, graduated valedictorian, got accepted at Columbia University, and never looked back.
It all started with a badge
that
and a
kid
joint.
saved my life. That kid and his joints and his machete were the best thing that ever happened to me. How's that for a story?
Do you still have the badge?
I don't have the badge. It was kind of like the ending of Clint Eastwood and Dirty Harry.
Right.
I tossed it into the Hudson as far as I could toss it and said, F you, have a nice life. I'm
weren't
done
cut
with
out
that
for police work.
I was not cut out for police work. No, they don't allow, that's why they don't allow Jews in police work. Did you know that? I'm just kidding. My uncle was actually a leading detective in Brooklyn, New York, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, top detective. But very rare that you have Jewish detectives in the police force in those days. Maybe things have changed today, but in those days, I think he was the only Jewish detective in Brooklyn, I believe. But I do have a bloodline that fights. See, I have a fighting bloodline.
You've always been a fighter.
A fighting Jew. You're sitting with
when
a
you
fighting
grow up
Jew.
like a fighting Jew with a badge.
It's like a Jew crossed with a pit bull. I'm a fighting Jew, okay? Megan's always entertained by my stories.
I
So.
am. Do you have a lot of them?
I do have a lot of stories.
My gang members wearing a badge.
And all these stories are real, and they made me the
know.
person I am today. What can I tell you?
I've
had
when I
a
sit
lot
next
of
to you, I
great
realize
stories.
just
Man.
how boring of a life I've led.
I have had a lot of great stories, man. I've had a crazy life. Do you know when I was 23, I owned one of the top nightclubs in the world? Did you know that? 23 years old, and I bought Xenon Nightclub in New York City, which Studio 54 and Xenon were the two big nightclubs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've never done a drug in my life, never done cocaine.
I grew up in the wrong era. I really did.
Anyway, that's the story for today. Glad you were all able to share that. We've got Paula in watching the show. Thank you for being here, Paula. One of the fans of this show who emailed me and said, I want to come in. I'm dying to watch this show because I just love your show. And so I said, great, come on in. And she's here watching the show. And she is a very nice lady.
How do you know she's normal?
Because she is. I just spent a half hour talking to her before the show.
Oh, well, I know,
showed
but,
up early to meet her.
Invite them
She's
in.
a great
I'm not
lady.
saying you're abnormal, Paula. I'm just saying, how do you check? People that
Someday someone's going to kill me. She could be the killer. I don't know, but I don't
she'll
think
beat you over the head with her basket.
She could be the one. She's the reason I'm getting the CCW permit. Is that why? All right. Wayne Allyn, War Now. Megan Barr, thanks for great being in for the show again and allowing me to get all my business done. Today it wasn't a workout. Today we had a business meeting with a new client. Ate right down the street, a beautiful restaurant called Panavino, right on this corner.
I love Panavino.
Panavino's
they're
great.
They're going to advertise, yeah?
No, I wasn't here for Panavino. I was here for a new client eating at Panavino.
Oh, I love Panavino.
I should have spoken to Panavino about advertising while I was there.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. But Panavino is great food, and it's the only restaurant in all of Las Vegas where I can get my favorite New York Italian meal, chicken cacciatore. And they don't have it on the menu. They make it in the back for me.
Oh, that's
so thank you, Panavino, for a little bit of home chicken cacciatore. It reminded me of almost being killed by the machete.
I was gonna say.
A little bit of New York home, baby. All right. When we come back, we'll have lots more. We've got guests. We'll take calls. Call the number 844-WAR-NOW-1, 844-WAR-NOW-1. Toll-free call anywhere in the United States of America. Megan, thank you.
You're welcome.
Always love having Megan here.
Love being
here. And we love having you here, and we love having all of you listening here. We love having Paula watching. Good fans coming in who I don't believe for a second wants to kill me. I think she only has good intentions. What do you think?
I think
But
so,
just
too.
in case, Charlie, Frisker, I'm Wayne Allyn. War Now. We shall return. Now we shall return. Now we shall return. All right, Wayne Allyn, welcome to War Now. Megan Barth in with me, as always, at the beginning of the 4 o'clock hour after doing a wonderful hour to start. Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.
Wayne Allyn, a middle-class warrior, relentless freedom fighter, capitalist evangelist, conservative rock star, and all-around lovable badass. What's this war good for? God, guns, gold, tax cuts, term limits, and Trump. That's how we save America, capitalism, and American exceptionalism. Call-in number anywhere in the United States now, 844-WAR-NOW-1, 844 toll-free, WAR Now 1, 844-927-6691 numerically. You can listen online at 790 Talk Now. You can listen to any shows you missed at my YouTube channel, War Now Radio. And this show is sponsored by Swiss America, the gold standard, the number one precious metals company in America. Contact Swiss America at 800-BUY-COIN or go to SwissAmerica.com. This is almost April 1st, which means April 15th is right around the corner, and that means tax day. And so you will need an IRA or a SEP IRA, and it should be in physical gold or silver. You can only get it at Swiss America at 800-BUY-COIN, 800-BUY-COIN. All right, so normally in the 4 o'clock hour, I do the world-famous Root Rant, but when Megan is here, we chat a bit together about some of the news headlines and things going on in the world today. By the way, the single biggest problem in the world today, other than Democrats, loony, unhinged, crazy Democrats, would have to be North Korea. They are
Talking about loony Democrats.
They're threatening.
Kim Jong-un would run under the Democrat Party if he
and he'd win. He'd win.
Oh, he would totally win. Yeah.
Because the
diversity.
average
We need diversity.
The average Democratic voter would say, he sounds great to me.
Right. Yeah, it's wonderful.
You ever see those Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC late night, and Jimmy Kimmel goes out and does a man on the street on Hollywood Boulevard?
Oh, yeah.
And nobody ever knows who any of the politicians are they're voting for. So they showed a picture of Joe Biden, and not one person had any idea who he was. He's been vice president for 8 years, or he was vice president for 8 years. Not one person on Hollywood Boulevard knew who he was. But more importantly, one black guy took a look at the picture and said, "Oh, that's got to be a Republican." And he said, "Why is that?" "He's an old white man. That's got to be a man who hates Obama." That's what he said. He's got to be. He's white and he's old, so he must be a Republican who hates
stereotypes
Obama.
Are racist.
Yeah. So, if they showed a picture of Kim Jong-un, they go, "Oh, he's a good Democrat, man. He's a good guy.
Oh, he's wonderful.
It's diversity. He's Asian. It's diverse."
And he saves electricity by, shutting off half the electricity. I mean, he's really good when it comes to climate change because the whole entire country is dark.
It's starving to death
and they only
and freezing.
have one channel. Right. Yes. He is
he's good for, that cows.
Less people.
Cows cause climate change by farting.
Right.
So there are no cows and there is no food.
And there's no food.
So there's no pollution. It's great.
Right.
It's wonderful.
And less
All's
people,
good.
the happier the Democrats.
Yes.
But they never go first when it comes to the climate change, saving the climate. Because if they claim that people are the problems with that climate change deal, right? Then why don't they go first? There's plenty of cliffs. There's plenty of way.
Well, in Korea, in North Korea, they are going first.
Right.
He's killing them left and right.
Right.
He
Even
feeds
his
them.
brother.
He feeds them to wild dogs and boars.
Yeah.
Yes, his own brother. He killed, but in Malaysia with the shot. But with the they wiped some poison on his face.
No, they wiped his poison on his face.
Yes, but there was a general that he decided was not loyal, or there was something he said he just didn't like. And he fed him to, I guess, called feral pigs. Like 80 of them just attacked him and ripped him to shreds and ate him. That must have been a nice
Wasn't
ending.
that in Reservoir Dogs?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so North Korea is the perfect liberal society.
It is.
It's absolutely perfect.
Absolutely. Everyone lives in the dark.
It's green energy at its finest. Everyone's freezing. And, in America, Harry Reid likes windmills, things like that don't work, that government subsidies pay for, that create almost no energy. But in North Korea, they probably take somebody they don't like, they shoot him in the head, and they tape him to a windmill, and he goes around and around and around. And that's their source of energy. So it's great. It's perfect for liberals. I thought what else was great in the news was Sean Diddy Combs' Revolt TV music channel. I didn't know he had a TV music channel named Revolt TV, but then I'm not 18 and hip. Is being sued because white workers claim they were victims of reverse racism.
I read that headline.
5 white men who produced broadcasts of the popular morning show for Revolt TV owned by Sean Diddy Combs, alleged papers filed in the Manhattan Supreme Court. They were victims of racism. Revolt treated them worse than other employees who were younger and or African American. The 39 years or older group claims they were not treated the same as other black employees, despite their experience having produced years of episodes of The Howard Stern Show. And so, very interesting. And I found that in my life, in my career, by the way. You know, I grew up in a all-black town, Mount Vernon, New York. I was majority black, and I went to an all-black high school, 90% black. And I was tortured. I was beat up. I was threatened. I was chased home from school. Not this. You're laughing. These are knives and guns. They were torturing me with little, what do you call it? They were throwing little pelts at me. They had knives and guns. And I was almost killed 3 times, including with a machete.
It made you the man who you are today.
It did.
Right?
It did. A machete the 3rd time.
A machete?
To cut my head off. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So here's the story. Wait, you want to hear the story?
Were they Islamists?
So no, so I was in the process of becoming. I went from the guy who got chased to a guy who lifted weights all summer and got really big and learned how to fight.
Body.
And I walked in and I was really kind of rough, and I hung out with the rough Italian guys. You know, it was 85% black and 15% Italian and 1 Jew, me. And I hung out with the Italian guys, and they wanted me to become a marshal, which is the policeman of the school. And you get a badge, and you have free access to the whole school. You could do whatever you want. So I'm there during the bell is rung, it's class time, and the hallways have to be empty. You have to be in class. I'm patrolling the hallway alone with just my badge. They give you a badge, Jew and a badge. No gun, no knife, just a badge. What's a Jew supposed to do with a badge, right? So that doesn't work well. So anyway, I see a kid in the hallway. He's black, and he's smoking pot. He's just standing there smoking pot, leaning up against the glass door. So I went to the glass door, and I kicked it hard. And he fell down on the ground and tumbled on the ground. And when he got up, he pulled a machete out of his long overcoat and charged at me.
Oh, my.
And so now I'm on the ground fighting for my life. The machete is an inch from my head. My hands are on his hands, and he's trying to stick it through my brain or through my eyes. And the machete's getting closer and closer. By the way, I know it's a machete because eventually, the long end of the story is I won, and I didn't die, obviously, and there's no hole in my head, so I didn't die. You get it. When we went to court, it was identified as a machete. Anything that's 9 inches or longer of a knife is defined by New York law as a machete. He was sentenced to, I believe, 3 years at a juvenile facility. And then 4 years later, after he got out, I saw his name one more time in the newspaper, killed in a car chase with police after raping a woman. So he was headed for very bad things. But my life was spared when at the moment it looked like, I wasn't winning, by the way. At the moment it looked like he was going to shove that knife through the Jew's head. At that moment, a black principal came out of his office and screamed, "Hey you, what are you doing? Drop that knife!" And he dropped it and ran. That's what saved my life. And the principal came over, grabbed me, and the two of us chased him down, and I almost died a second time. We chased them directly into an area where no one was supposed to be, and his gang was there cutting class. And 8 guys, all with knives pulled out, switchblades, surrounded me and the high school principal, the black principal. I had my back to the principal, and the two of us were ready to fight 8 people with knives. And at that moment, the bell rang for class to end, and everybody came flooding out. And when everyone came flooding out, they dispersed and ran. And we grabbed him, brought him to the office. That kid saved my life, because guess what the result of the whole story was? The principal calls my parents in, and I'm thinking, did I get in trouble? What did I do? And tells them he's a member of a gang, and it doesn't matter what I do with this kid. He's expelled for life in this school, but his gang members are going to stick Wayne in the back with a knife, and there's nothing I could do to stop it. There ain't no way he's surviving a week. That was that principal talk. There ain't no way he's surviving a week in this school. So my parents went to my grandfather. My father was a butcher, had no money. My grandfather owned the butcher store. That's why ownership is everything in life. That's why small businessmen, a lot better to be an owner than ever work for anybody. Could always own. He had enough money, my grandfather. He wasn't rich, but he had enough money that he could pay for me to go to a private school, which turned out to be the swankiest private school in Westchester County, New York. And I went overnight from this jungle of death to this all-white, spoiled brat, privileged high school where every kid had a multi-zillionaire father, and I just took like a fish to water.
And you were an SOB, a son of a butcher.
Became friends with all of them, learned fast, graduated valedictorian, got accepted at Columbia University, and never looked back.
It all started with a badge
that kid
and a
saved
joint.
my life. That kid and his joints and his machete were the best thing that ever happened to me. How's that for a story?
Do you
Best
still have
thing.
the badge?
I don't have the badge. It was kind of like the ending of Clint Eastwood and Dirty Harry.
Right.
I tossed it into the Hudson as far as I could toss it and said, F you, have a nice life. I'm
weren't
done
cut
with
out
that
for police
bull."
work.
I was not cut out for police work. No, they don't allow, that's why they don't allow Jews in police work. Did you know that? I'm just kidding. My uncle was actually a leading detective in Brooklyn, New York, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, top detective. But very rare that you have Jewish detectives in the police force in those days. Maybe things have changed today, but in those days, I think he was the only Jewish detective in Brooklyn, I believe. But I do have a bloodline that fights. See, I have a fighting
you've
bloodline.
always been a fighter.
A fighting Jew. You're sitting with
when
a
you
fighting
grow up
Jew.
like a fighting Jew with a badge.
It's like a Jew crossed with a pit bull. I'm a fighting Jew. Okay. Megan's always entertained by my stories. So.
I am. Do you have a lot of them?
I do have a lot of stories.
By gang members wearing a badge.
And all these stories are real, and they
I
made me the
know.
person I am today. What can I tell you?
I've
I've had
when I
a
sit
lot
next
of
to you, I
great
realize
stories.
just
man.
how boring of a life I've led.
I have had a lot of great stories, man. I've had a crazy life. Do you know when I was 23, I owned one of the top nightclubs in the world? Did you know that? 23 years old, and I bought Xenon Nightclub in New York City, which Studio 54 and Xenon were the two big nightclubs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've never done a drug in my life. Never done cocaine.
I grew up in the wrong era. I really did.
Anyway, that's the story for today. Glad you were all able to share that. We've got Paula in watching the show. Thank you for being here, Paula. One of the fans of this show who emailed me and said, I want to come in. I'm dying to watch this show because I just love your show. And so I said, great, come on in. And she's here watching the show. And she is a very nice lady.
How do you know she's normal?
Because she is. I just spent a half hour talking to her before the show.
Oh, well, I know,
showed
but,
up early to meet her.
Invite them
She's
in.
a great
I'm not
lady.
saying you're abnormal, Paula. I'm just saying, like, how do you check? Like, people that...
Someday someone's going to kill me. She could be the killer. I don't know, but I don't
She'll
think
beat you over the head with her basket.
She could be the one. She's the reason I'm getting the CCW permit. Is that why? All right. Wayne Allyn, War Now. Megan Barr, thanks for great being in for the show again and allowing me to get all my business done. Today it wasn't a workout. Today we had a business meeting with a new client. Ate right down the street at a beautiful restaurant called Panavino, right on this corner.
Panavino.
Panavino's
they're
great.
They're going to advertise, yeah?
No, I wasn't here for Panavino. I was here for a new client eating at Panavino.
Oh, I love Panavino.
I should have spoken to Panavino about advertising while I was there.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. But Panavino is great food, and it's the only restaurant in all of Las Vegas where I can get my favorite New York Italian meal, chicken cacciatore. And they don't have it on the menu. They make it in the back for me.
Oh, that's
so thank you, Panavino, for a little bit of home chicken cacciatore. It reminded me of almost being killed by the machete.
I was gonna say.
A little bit of New York home, baby. All right. When we come back, we'll have lots more. We've got guests. We'll take calls. Call the number 844-WAR-NOW-1, 844-WAR-NOW-1. Toll-free call anywhere in the United States of America. Megan, thank you.
You're welcome.
Always love having Megan here.
Love being here.
And we love having you here, and we love having all of you listening here. We love having Paula watching. Good fans coming in who I don't believe for a second wants to kill me. I think she only has good intentions. What do you think?
I think
But
so,
just
too.
in case, Charlie, Frisker, I'm Wayne Allyn. War Now. We shall return. Just a little bit of energy. All right. Compare my energy, by the way, to an employee of the Department of Motor Vehicles, and you understand why America's in so much trouble. There it is, right? You ever walk into motor vehicles and they walk at like 1 step a minute? Everything's slow. You know why? Because they're a government employee and they got a guaranteed check and a guaranteed pension. They know they can never be fired. Everything's slow. They're in no rush. They get a guaranteed coffee break. They get a guaranteed lunch. Everything's slow and easy. That's a government employee. You know? Compare my energy. Compare the 3 intense hours of this show, wall-to-wall, pedal to the metal, to a government employee at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and you will understand everything wrong with America. That's it, right there. That's it. All right, we want to talk a little bit about Obamacare, because I think, other than Trump and Russia, and Trump, whether he was spied on by America, by our own CIA, or our own DOJ, or our own NSA, I think those, that and Obamacare are the 3 issues that are just all over the news. So we like to bring you guests who can opine on those issues that are in the news. We've got Lindsay Jansek, who's a Republican National Committee Deputy Communications Director, to talk about this health care bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. And we want to bring her on. So, Lindsay, thank you. Welcome to the show. I'm Wayne Allyn. How are you?
Hey, Wade, I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm great. Look, I think my listeners probably expected me to go crazy. I'm the biggest Trump fan in the world and helped elect Trump and did 1,500 interviews to elect Trump. And they probably expected me to be against his health care replacement. It's really Paul Ryan's bill, not Donald's. But, because I'm such a conservative, they kind of expected me to freak out. But see, I know how bad Obamacare really is, and I'm thrilled with any step in the right direction. And I think this isn't perfect. I don't love it, but it's a step in the right direction. So why would I get mad at a step in the right direction? I've always been a guy who says never let the perfect get in the way of the good. And I think the replacement bill by Paul Ryan is good. I don't think it's great, but I think it's good, and it's a step in the right direction. Why would I want to keep Obamacare and complain about it and not change anything? I'd rather change for the good. So actually, I'm probably confusing my fans and listeners because they all thought I'd be against this thing. I want Trump to pass it. I want to begin the process of repealing and replacing Obamacare, and I think this does that. So I think we're much better off with this than what we've got. Simple as that. What do you think about what I just said?
I think you need to come and work for the Republican National Committee.
I'm always open to offers, Lindsay.
Let's talk after this. No, I mean, you're exactly right. Obamacare is on a death
Horrible.
spiral, and it's led to higher costs and fewer health insurance options. For millions of Americans, but especially for people in Nevada. Even bleeding Democrats have been admitting that it's a failure. Bill Clinton rallied against Obamacare as a crazy system that doubled Americans' premiums. So what kind of healthcare system do we want when you've got Democrats saying that it doesn't work either?
Well, Lindsay, by the way, Bill Clinton was underplaying it. See, that's the trouble is he was underplaying how bad it really is. So in my case, let me give you my case, right? I'm a small businessman, separate from this radio show. I'm a small businessman and entrepreneur. And so I get my insurance policy on the private market, right? Independent private market. Mm-hmm. So my policy was $500 a month to cover my family of 4 kids. And it covered everything. It was Aetna. It was fantastic. Never had a complaint in my life. That's why when Obama started railing against Obamacare, I thought that was crazy. I said, I love my insurance. Why would you want to screw me up to save, X people that you think voted for you that don't have insurance? Let me keep what I got and go help them, right? But don't screw me up. Mm-hmm. So sure enough, Obamacare comes in, $500 a month, and it covered everything. Now it's $2,000 a month, and it covers nothing. Nothing. So I actually switched to a Christian health sharing policy, a company called Liberty Health Share that's a sponsor of this show. I switched to theirs, and it's $500 a month again for my entire family of 6. But Aetna was $2,000 a month, and it covered nothing for the last 2 years. When I tell you that every bill they found a way to stick it all on me because of Obamacare, and I've even got the proof, Lindsay, the proof. I got the letters that I got 2 years ago that said, now that Obamacare has gone into effect, Aetna is sorry to inform you we're dropping you as a client. You could sign on for a new policy, but we're canceling your old one, which proves Obama's a liar. Right? He said, if you like your insurance, you can keep it. I couldn't. And then I signed on for the new one, and it was $1,500. It tripled from $500 to $1,500. And then finally, I got the new notice for $2,000. And at that point, I just dropped Aetna just literally 2 months ago, and I started out with this Christian health sharing organization, Liberty Health Share. So that's how bad Obamacare really is. When you added the quadrupling of my price and then all the bills that are on me, it's 6 times more expensive than when Obama said we had a bad healthcare system. How do you like that?
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. Since Obamacare was instituted, average premiums for even the second lowest cost silver plan rose by over 40% on average. And in some places, it rose 100%. And we've even seen reports that found 41 states faced higher average healthcare deductibles last year alone. And something like 17 states faced double-digit rate increases. I know in Arizona, they went up, their premiums increased this year triple digits, 116%. And so you're talking about, and now insurers are leaving the marketplace, right? So now you're telling Americans that they have no options left, and nearly 1 in 5 Americans has only one insurer offering Obamacare on the exchange plan. So we had to do something, right? President Trump and members of Congress all, campaigned on this idea that we had to repeal and replace Obamacare. We couldn't let the status quo continue. You've got premiums rising and hurting small business owners like yourself, and it's just not sustainable for anyone. And so we've come up with this plan, that the president has spent months listening to members of Congress, to doctors and other professionals, trying and most importantly to listen to people from across the country that have suffered under this disastrous healthcare law for too long. And so we think we have a plan that is good. No plan is perfect, like you said earlier. And so we're, continuing to listen to members of Congress and listen to folks, across the country in every corner of every state and get input. And I think what people, they fail to recognize is more input's a good thing. The more people you have that give you criticism, maybe you're doing something right. And I think that only makes the bill stronger. It's not perfect, and that's okay. But, they've unveiled some of the amendments that are going to get tacked onto the bill. And I think that's gone a long way into helping many conservative leaders, not just in the Republican Party, but conservative voices across the country. We had the U.S. Chamber of Commerce come out today and the National Federation of Independent Businesses come out and support the bill, who have come to the White House now and voiced their support for the American Health Care Act. So we're taking the right steps. It's by no means over. This is, we're trying to be as transparent as possible with the American public and how we go about passing this law, because we don't want to do it in, like Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid did 7 years ago, and on Christmas Eve they wrote it in Harry Reid's office and jammed it through Congress.
By the way,
over
Lindsay,
Christmas break.
Lindsay, let me jump in just to ask a quick question, and then we're going to go to a quick break. I want you to stay through the break because I want to go over the actual bill and show people what's good in it when we get back.
Yeah.
I only have one criticism.
Great.
I only have one criticism of the bill. Besides the fact that it's good, not great. I'd like it to be better, but it is what it is to get it passed and get it through. And I do believe when Republicans say they're going to pass a second and a third and a fourth, they couldn't put it all into this bill because you couldn't use reconciliation.
You can't, right.
So I get it. I get it. I
Yep.
saw the riders and the additions and the changes that were made. I agree with all of them, and they would help flip a conservative like me to vote for it. There was just one I did not like, and I don't understand. Why did they take out, I believe what they took out was something about illegals not being able to use tax credits, and they took that out. Who's the constituency that they're trying to gain by taking out something that kicks illegals out of getting tax credits? That's ridiculous. That one I don't agree with at all. Why, do you have any idea why they would remove that? Who are they trying to please?
No, that one I don't know, and I will try and look through the break. I do know that we did get some complaints from folks about that the tax credits weren't big enough. So the only thing I can think of is that we needed to make the tax credits more expansive.
No,
so
that's
we're gonna
fine.
do that.
No, that's fine. I agreed with that. They were trying to give more tax credits to seniors and low income to get a few extra votes, and I get that. That was fine. They took
that's
out
the age
some
tax,
sort of
yeah.
clause. Check on this in the break. They took out some sort of clause that denied the tax credits to illegals. Now illegals will be able to use the tax credits to get Obamacare. To me, that makes no
that doesn't
sense.
sound right. I'll
No,
double
so
check
check
on
on
that,
that.
yeah.
Make sure I'm right on that. I got some
Yeah.
complaints about that. I'd love to hear your response to that. And then let's go over the good parts of the bill that are certainly a lot better than anything we've had with Obamacare. So I'm not going to complain on positive steps in the right direction. All right, so stay with us. Lindsay Jansek, am I pronouncing it right? Well, I guess she's got us on hold. Lindsay Jansek, she is the RNC Deputy Communications Director, and we appreciate her being on. We'll get more from Lindsay just around the bend. The battle has just begun, and we're going to win it. You're in the right place because this is WAR. This politician, I guess Hillary Clinton is very honest politician because when you buy her at the Clinton Foundation, she stays bought. Before we get back to the RNC Deputy Communications gal, her name is Lindsay Jansek. I want to quickly relay to you for the Las Vegas Police Department. We asked them to come on the show today. I've had several emails asking me what was the follow-up to yesterday's story. That ICE literally named Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and Clark County as the worst offender in the United States of America for refusing to detain illegals who were being let out of prison after committing crimes and refusing to detain them after a request by ICE to just hold them so we could get them and deport them. And Vegas doesn't do it. And they named Vegas as the worst offender in the nation. And so we asked the sheriff, Lombardo, to come on the show, or sub-representative of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And here's what they sent back. I wonder what you think of this. Please accept the below paragraph as an official statement. No further comment, including on-camera or telephone interviews, will be offered by anyone. We believe the report released by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement unfairly portrays the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department as a non-cooperative jurisdiction. The LVMPD does, in fact, participate in the 287G program as a jail-based review of immigration status and has for many years. ICE is notified when a person in our custody has a detainer. Since January 2017, 99 inmates have been released to ICE's custody. And this comes from Officer Michael Rodriguez, Office of Public Information, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. So I'll leave it up to you. What do you, the listeners of War Now, think? If that's true, number one, the police are saying that ICE is a liar, or somehow they've misconstrued, or they've just made up facts. Donald Trump's administration is lying about the fact that our police department is the worst in the nation. They didn't say they're bad. They said they're the worst offender in the United States of America, and this is the police saying they disagree. That's not true. But not only are they disagreeing, but they refuse to do a single interview on camera or even on telephone to give their side of the story, and they issue an icy response like that. Does that not smell bad to you? It smells bad to me. I think someone's lying. I don't think it's President Trump. I don't think it's ICE. I think it's the Las Vegas Police Department's lying. And if you're not lying, I dare you to come on the show and prove to me you're not lying. I don't believe for a second you're telling the truth. Anyone who does is naive. Whenever anyone in major government refuses to do an interview, it's because they're lying through their teeth, and they know they're lying through their teeth, and they know that anyone in the media will know they're lying through the teeth. But in particular, they would never get on the show with Wayne Root because I'll expose them as liars. Do you really believe you could be branded as the worst police department in America, listening to ICE requests for detaining criminals, and you're actually wonderful and everything's fine and there's been a mistake made somewhere, but you refuse to even talk about it? You're not going to go on an interview. Doesn't smell very good to me. Charlie, smell good to you? No, doesn't smell good to anyone. All right. Back to, by the way, someone else emailed and said they think the new name for the Las Vegas airport, otherwise known as McCarran, should not be Harry Reid International Airport. It should be Wayne Allen Root Airport. Just wanted you to know, one of my fans thought that would be a good name for the airport. I personally think it should be Las Vegas International. Get rid of McCarran, and please, God, don't allow Harry Reid to be the name of the airport. All right, back with Lindsay. Lindsay Jansek is the RNC Deputy Communications Director, and she's talking to us about Obamacare. I wanted to find out if what I'd heard about one rider being taken out of the new replacement bill, a rider which really stopped illegals from getting tax credits to use towards Obamacare. I heard it was taken out. Any luck finding out an answer for me on that, Lindsay?
Right, yeah. So it does ban illegal immigrants from getting tax credits, but it kind of laxes some of the checks. And the reason why it did that is because under our previous administration, as you probably well know, 8 years underneath Obama, their administration wasn't very good about enforcing a lot of the background checks on illegal immigration. And so President Trump has asked that his administration actually be a part of that discussion. And so, as we kind of talked through, this is a three-step process. The first one we're doing right now, but the second one, as you know, is also the regulatory flexibility that the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Tom Price, will have. That's going to go to him, and where he is going to actually step up enforcement and ensure that folks who are here illegally aren't receiving tax credits to receive health care.
All right. Look, I always give the benefit of the doubt to Donald Trump because I fought hard to get him elected. I think his election saved America. I think we were going to implode if Hillary was elected and carried on as the third term of Obama. And I always take Donald at his word. And so far, everything he's done as president has been fantastic. He's being blocked every step of the way, but he's been fantastic. And I believe he's done even more than Ronald Reagan did at an early stage. So I always take Trump's word. And if Donald Trump says he's going to make this right and make it work, then I think he will. So I'm going to go along and not have a big debate on this one because I feel like Donald always has our interests in mind as Americans, as patriots, as conservatives, and as middle-class Americans. I think he's got his heart in the right place, and I think he's a smart guy who's got his brain in the right place. So I think we'll be okay. Hopefully that explanation means that he'll find a way to fix it a little bit down the line and make it better. Lindsay, tell me about the general Obamacare. When people complain, when conservatives complain that it's not good enough, that it's Obamacare light, tell me why it's not. Give me some good ammo, why it's a great step in the right direction.
Well, I think the one thing to keep in mind on this one, Wade, is the president and his team have worked really closely with Republican leadership, and that's just not, at the top. That goes all the way down, and that includes many of the conservative leaders as well. in order to make the best possible legislation that repeals and replaces Obamacare, and really follows on their discussions and makes a number of improvements. So one of the things they do is they deliver a lot more immediate relief from Obamacare taxes, which accelerates repealing the Obamacare taxes to 2017 rather than 2018. And what that's important for especially folks in your home state, is ensures that millions of individuals, families, and small business owners like yourself who paid penalties or taxes this year can reclaim their hard-earned tax dollars from the IRS.
I assume, Lindsay, that means the 3.8% dreaded tax that I hate so much is gone this year. Is that correct?
Yep, that is gone.
That's fantastic. How could anyone be mad at this? That is such a great step in the right direction. No one gets it. You know, they don't get it because I'm a small businessman, Lindsay, and I pay that tax, and it is killing me. It is crippling me. And I know it was going to be eliminated for 18, but that wasn't good enough for me. If they do that for 17, and I heard even before you said it, I heard that was the new thing that happened overnight. That's great news.
That is fantastic. Yep, that is
I'm
fantastic.
all for it. You got my vote.
Yeah.
You'd have my vote. I can tell you that right now.
Well, good. I appreciate that. That's all we need, really. We've got you on board. We don't need anybody
That's true.
else.
If you have Wayne Root, you got everything, Lindsay. I'm telling you.
I do.
Tell me some more things
to
make
right
things to make me happy, Lindsay.
Well, it ensures Americans have the help that they need to access the care that's right for them. So no more of this mandate. You have to have health care if you want health care. We want Americans to do what's best for them and pick the health care that's right for them. So this provides the financing for additional support for those who have a high health care cost before the bill goes to the Senate. So right now, Americans can deduct from their taxes the cost of medical expenses that exceed 10% of their income. The proposed amendment, the fix that was in the works passed on Monday night, helps reduce this threshold to 5.8%.
Yeah, that's great news too.
Right.
Great news.
Right. So we're almost cutting in half.
Yes.
You know, especially as per our conservative folks, the protection of life is really important. So this protects life by prohibiting tax dollars from being used on any abortion service going forward, which is, paramount to, our conservative agenda. It also gives states additional flexibility in Medicaid programs, which, we heard from, governors across the country that said our states want that flexibility, and so we wanted to provide it. So states and governors now have asked for that flexibility, so we're going to give states the option to opt out of their own per capita allotment and baseline. So basically what that means is they could receive federal funds through a block grant.
How about this one?
They wanted in the first place.
How about this one for me, Lindsay? I heard, and we're talking to Lindsay Jancic, who is the Deputy Commissioner, Communications Director for the RNC, Republican National Committee, and I heard that there are new work requirements. If you want to get Medicaid under Obamacare, which won't be Obamacare anymore, they ought to call it Donald Care, but whatever it's called. If you want to get this, you cannot get Medicaid without getting a job, without working. And I think that's great.
So we're giving states the ability to implement optional work requirements. That's right. So, we're focused on our most vulnerable populations, but we also want to encourage healthy adults to transition into full-time employment. So what we're doing now is we're allowing states the option to implement a reasonable work requirement for able-bodied adults without dependents. So if you work 40 hours a week, we can give you better protections underneath the Medicare program, especially if you're not claiming any dependents. If you have no kids, you're a 35-year-old male adult, and you hold down a regular full-time job, we're going to try and provide you a little bit more monetary help on the Medicare side if you need it. So
I give you the Wayne Root seal of approval. Again, it's not perfect, but we have time to make it perfect. They could pass several more bills after this, but right now we got to get reconciliation, win it by 51 votes. That's what matters, and I would vote yay. It's not perfect. Don't let conservatives scream at me. Wayne Root's giving in. Wayne Root's supporting Obamacare light, but I think that's an hysterical argument. It's not Obamacare light. It's far better than what I've got now, and we'll worry about fixing the rest over the next few months. So I'm with President Trump. I stand with him. I trust him. I go with him, and I think we should all tell our congressmen and women and our senators to pass this bill. Okay? Make sense?
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And, let's talk in a couple of weeks, too, after this week, and we can talk about, the second parts and the third parts of, getting, healthcare reform through this country.
Yeah, let me get one little point in that as we end this interview, that you bring back to the RNC. Make sure that they, if it's not going to be in this iteration, make sure in one of the future ones they add in the ability for Americans who are religious, Christian Americans, to choose Christian Health Share Ministries. That was actually in Obamacare, believe it or not. And I just joined one to bring my cost, as I told you, down from $2,000 to $500 a month. It's not in this one. I know that Liberty Health Share contacted me today and said it's the right to use it is not in this bill. Make sure you lobby your congressmen and women. Well, make sure you bring that message back to the RNC. We got to keep that in. If Obama allowed Christians to use a health sharing ministry for their health insurance, then we've got to let Trump know that he's got to do it too. Got to include that, okay?
Agreed.
All right, good.
You got it.
You go back and let him know, Lindsay Jancic, RNC, and let everyone know what the RNC, Wayne Root, is with you. Seal of approval, all right?
We appreciate it.
All
Thanks
right,
so
Lindsay.
much for having me.
Thank you. God bless. All right, Wayne Allyn Root. Now, I want to give all of you the phone number of the Vegas Public Information Officer, Michael Rodriguez. His phone number is 702-828-4082. 702-828-4082. Let's make it known that we do not accept that statement. If they are on the side of ICE and the Trump administration, if the Vegas Police Department is detaining the bad guys who are illegals who need to be detained at the request of ICE, why won't they come on Wayne Root's show and have a real discussion about it? We don't trust that they're putting out a press release that says this is the only statement, no further comment, no interviews will be offered. They're hiding something. Something's wrong. Call Officer Michael Rodriguez, Office of Public Information. Tell them they've got to get on Wayne Root's show or we think they're lying. 702-828-4082, or you can email them. M for Michael, 12717R for Rodriguez at lvmpd.com. That's Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, lvmpd.com. I'll give it to you one more time. 702-828-4082. Flood that office with calls or email them at m12717r at lvmpd.com. Let them know you do not trust. Trust but verify. If they're not willing to come on this show, they're hiding something, and the police are not abiding by ICE, and you know it, and I know it. Wayne Allyn Root, WAR Now. About Benghazi. He lied about everything. He lied about the IRS scandal. Should have been the biggest scandal in the history of America. Used the IRS to come after critics like me and destroy my life. Used the government in general, the SEC, the FDA, the FTC, the FCC. Every three-letter organization was used to try and destroy critics of the president, conservative groups, Tea Party groups, patriot groups, U.S. Constitution groups, Christian groups, Jewish pro-Israel groups. Never before has anything like this happened in America's history, and this man should be in prison, not just should have had the presidency taken away from him, and they're talking about impeaching Trump. News time. When we get back, more calls, 844-WAR, now 1. WAR, now 1. WAR. All right, Wayne Allyn Root. I ended the last segment by mentioning Tomi Lahren, one of the most beautiful women in all of conservative talk, Blaze TV host. I was there on the day that they hired her. I was at Glenn Beck's studio. I just did an interview there, and I was meeting with them about many other issues, and I was sitting right nearby with my good friend Craig Kitchen when Tomi Lahren walked in on the very first day of her employment there, and I knew she'd be a big star, and she became a big star, and now Glenn Beck has suspended her and her show for at least 1 week starting Monday, although it looks like she's on the way out anyway. Her contract with the company goes till September, but she may leave the company before then. And now that this has happened, I think it's pretty definite. They're probably going to cut a deal and she'll walk away from them. But her inflammatory style placed her at odds with her employees at the Blaze. Tensions were high between Lahren and her coworkers even before she called pro-life conservatives hypocrites in an appearance on The View. But see, this is how things get blown out of proportion. Listen to the words and tell me if she said something horrible. They asked her about pro-life, and she said, I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think the government should decide what women do with their bodies. So they take that and suddenly, and they is not liberal media, they is conservatives who are pro-life, freaked out and said, she's calling us all hypocrites. If you read the words, she didn't say, oh, I hate you, you're a hypocrite, you're a horrible person. She said, I would be a hypocrite myself if I said I'm for smaller government, but that government should tell me what to do with my own body as a woman. There's lots of debate allowed on this issue. I believe we're allowed to be pro-life conservatives and pro-choice conservatives in the same tent. And so I don't think it's such a terrible comment. I have a great back and forth argument all the time in my mind about this one issue. On every issue you can name, I'm a 100% conservative. I'd get a rating of 100% from the Heritage Foundation if I was a congressman or a senator on every fiscal issue. But on social issues, I'm much more libertarian. I'm not pro-choice. I'm not someone who thinks abortion is good. I think it's horrible. And I don't want anyone in my family ever being involved in an abortion. And I would counsel to them that I believe it's wrong and you shouldn't do it. But it's, basically, it's a legal thing. And it's between a woman and God. And she's got to live with it for the rest of her life. I personally couldn't live with it. I wouldn't get an abortion if I was a woman. I couldn't do it. But that doesn't mean I would stop you from doing it. And I think the Republican Party makes a big mistake even getting involved in the issue. The only involvement I have is that women have a right to get an abortion. Roe v. Wade, it's been decided. They have a right until you get to the third trimester. I would put absolute, massive limitations on abortion. It's between a woman and God. She can do what she wants till you get to the third trimester. Then you can't have it. You can't have an abortion in the third trimester. It's a person. It's a living thing. It's growing and breathing in the body. It's there. It is a person at that point. And that's my line that I draw. And I would not allow children, young girls, to get abortions without informing their parents. You can't go sit and get a tooth pulled or a cavity drilled if you're a 16-year-old kid without informing your parents. Why would you be allowed to get an abortion? So I am conservative on many issues, but in general, I don't see abortion being banned. I just think it should be banned in the third trimester. I believe partial birth abortion is a disgusting thing that should be banned. I don't think government should pay for abortion because so many people in our society think it's murder and a sin, and therefore government tax money shouldn't be used from you to pay for something that you object to and think is horrible. So I am conservative, but I'm with Tommy Lahren. In general, I don't want government telling me what to do. And so I could see how someone could think that it's big government to tell you what to do if you're a woman. I could totally understand that view, and I could respect it. And I don't think you should be suspending people for free speech in this country. I don't think because you find one issue you disagree with me on, you should say, I'm never going to listen to this show again. And I don't think the owner of this station, a wonderful owner named Edward Stolz, should say, if there's one thing I found I disagree with Wayne, I'm going to suspend him. He can never be on the air again. I just think that's a mistake. I think it's a line you don't want to cross. I think Glenn Beck's made a big mistake. I think you should have Tommy Lahren on his show to explain her comments and give her a chance to talk about it and explain his view. But it's just too much. And I don't think conservatives should be at war with each other over the issue of abortion. I've always felt that abortion and gay rights are issues we should get the hell out of. Because I'm telling you, they're hurting the conservative movement. I've always said that. Get the hell away from them like a hand grenade. They're just not my issues. I'm involved in fiscal issues, and I think all the other issues, I'm libertarian. I don't want government involved. So in many ways, I agree with Tommy Lahren. I just wouldn't have used the line that I assume is what got her suspended. I'm sure she's not suspended because she's pro-choice, which, by the way, I would not describe myself as. I would say pro-life, but it's none of my business for other people. There just have to be severe limitations in the third trimester. That's the way I would describe it. But on the other hand, she said conservatives are hypocrites if they believe in smaller government, and then they also believe in telling a woman what to do with their body, and that's what got her in hot water. I wouldn't have used those words, but I still don't think you should suspend her. I think it's wrong. In any case, Tommy Lahren, I'm sure will land on our feet and have a great job. I wanted to read you, in this segment of the Root Rant, where I open the hour, I wanted to read you a couple things. First of all, if you weren't with us in the 3 and 4 o'clock hour, one of my good friends quoted an article at USA Today today, which said that we are basically not only a sanctuary city, Las Vegas, but a sanctuary police department. And I looked it up, and the article at USA Today has been revised and clarified. In the week of the very last week of January and first week of February, Clark County Nevada, led the nation in the number of requests by ICE to detain a person and not let them walk away from the jail, the detention center, detain them for ICE so ICE could deport them out of the country. And that they led the nation among all the police departments that refused to cooperate with ICE. You hear what I just said? ICE believes that Clark County Metropolitan Police Department does not cooperate with ICE, and that they made 51 detention requests in that last week of January, first week of February, and they believe all 51 will be denied by Clark County. And I gave the phone number out if you want to let the sheriff's office know that you disagree with this and that we should not be a sanctuary city, we should not be a sanctuary state, we should not be a sanctuary county, and we certainly shouldn't be a sanctuary police department. I don't want our police officers and our police department ignoring requests from ICE for detaining bad guys. That's outrageous. What, the police don't follow the law anymore? And no matter how many times you guys deny that we're not a sanctuary city, we are a sanctuary city for all intents and purposes. No matter how many times you deny that you're cooperating with ICE, you aren't cooperating with ICE. Because ICE says you're not cooperating with ICE. So here's the phone number and the email to go after the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and let them know what you think. And you know I'm always behind the boys in blue. I'll bet you the foot soldiers, the policemen out on the beat, are all on our side, my side, your side. But the leadership is obviously not. So call the Office of Public Information at 702-828-3394. 702-828-3394. And give them a piece of your mind and let them know that you saw an article in USA Today or you heard on Wayne Allyn Root's show. There was an article in USA Today today that says that ICE believes that Clark County does not cooperate, or Las Vegas Police Department does not cooperate with ICE, and turns down their requests for detaining bad guys who are illegals. And that they made 51 requests in a week that leads the nation, and they believe all 51 will be turned down. 702-828-3394, or email them at pio@lvmpd.com. PIO for Public Information Officer at LVMPD, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.com. In the interests of fairness, I always read letters from liberal morons who say bad things about me. Here's Patty, who says, "You are an idiot. First of all, I want to send you a big thank you for saving me money every month. Ever since the RJ started printing your ridiculous columns and your ludicrous articles, I canceled my subscription. Any paper that would print the tripe you spew does not need my hard-earned money. Would you please do us the honor of crawling back into the hole you slimed out of?" Patty Romeo of Las Vegas, obviously. Patty Romeo. If you know her, tell her to call the show. I'd love to have a chance to debate Patty Romeo. And here's one more great one. Oh, this guy's a winner. This guy is a winner. This guy, his name is, hold on, I got to find the name. It's not that easy to find the name on these things. The name is Dinkins, Clyde Dinkins. Clyde sent a letter to every single executive at the Las Vegas Review-Journal and every living human being who's in politics in the state of Nevada and the United States of America. He CC'd everyone in the world, the Council of La Raza, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman, Steve Wynn himself, Sheldon Adelson, the owner of the RJ, the national chairman of the Jewish Anti-Defamation League, ADL, the Clark County chairman, Steve Sislak, Sheriff Joe Lombardo, all the Las Vegas Sheriff top officers, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Las Vegas Metro Chamber of Commerce, the Las Vegas Better Business Bureau, Zappo CEO Tony, I don't know how you pronounce his name, I never have known, Hase, I don't know, say, Las Vegas Review-Journal publisher, Las Vegas Sun publisher Brian Greenspan, It goes on and on and on. He CC'd Alan Stock and Heidi Harris at KDAWN. They're not at KDAWN anymore, you moron. They're back at CBS. Clark County Poet Laureate Bruce Isaacson. Oh, my God. The Associated Press, the UPI, USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. And basically what he said is, Wayne Root wrote a column calling Brian Sandoval the worst Republican governor in America. And because of that, he says, I'm a racist. I'm a racist. Do you apologize to Governor Sandoval for calling him the worst Republican governor in America? If you refuse to, you're a racist. Mentally ill man. To you, columnist Wayne Root, apologize to the Nevada Hispanic community and the United States of America Hispanic community for this insult to one of their favorite sons. Again, a simple yes or no will do. If you refuse, you're a racist. Columnist Root, my college professors, especially philosophy professor. Did you ever bother to ask Clyde if a philosophy professor could ever get a job in the real world besides being a moronic snowflake philosophy professor? Dr. Pasquale Schiavella taught me how to deal with vicious rhetoricians such as you. Is that a word? Rhetoricians? Clyde, I don't think that's a word. I say to my brothers and sisters in the Hispanic community, first of all, Clyde, he identifies himself as a senior citizen and African American. The Hispanic community is not your brother and sister, okay? I say to my brothers and sisters in the Hispanic community, La lealtad a la verdad es lo primero. We must not let Root get away with this demeaning, defaming of our governor, Brian Sandoval, and the Hispanic community. I defame the Hispanic community by saying he's the worst Republican governor in America. I don't even know he's Hispanic. Brian Sandoval, for all I know, he's Italian. Meaning, unless I hear from him or he calls a press conference to announce he's apologizing to Governor Sandoval and the Nevada Hispanic community, I will reach out to organize a rally and demonstration at the Review-Journal building or Las Vegas City Hall or anywhere the Hispanic community chooses. Sincerely, Clyde Dinkins. Now, this is what I put up with on a daily basis from mentally ill libtards, okay? I want to show you my reply, and then we'll go to ad break. Dear Mr. Dinkins, I fear you are the racist. I've never in my life ever thought of Governor Sandoval as an Hispanic, quote-unquote. He's a Republican governor to me. His ethnic background has never entered into my mind. It's completely immaterial. On the other hand, I'm a Jew. You mean every time any liberal criticizes me, I should charge that they hate Jews and they're clearly anti-Semites? Every criticism in life of anyone must, in your mind, be based on racism and the ethnic background of that person. This is truly a new low for America. Is this really how low liberalism has fallen? So based on your letter and your own standards, I am now charging you with anti-Semitism. It's clear that if you criticize me, you are absolutely a Jew hater. Do you like it when the shoe's on the other foot, Clyde? Please stop acting like a little child throwing a hissy fit because you don't like what mommy or daddy just said. Governor Sandoval was criticized by me for his policies and his agenda, none of which had anything to do with the color of his skin or his race or his ethnic background or whether he belongs to the La Raza Governors Association. I couldn't care less what his heritage is. His policies are bad for Nevada. His policies are bad for business and in direct opposition to Republican conservative values which come from Ronald Reagan. I spelled out very clearly those values. Those are my opinions. I write an opinion column for the RJ in case you don't understand that in your little infantile mind. None of my criticisms had anything to do with ethnic heritage. God bless America. Thank God we still have free speech. Anyone is free to criticize any politician without being labeled as a racist. Now, I'm certain everyone on this long list you sent your letter to agrees and finds your entire letter to be a bizarre charade. You're a liberal masquerading as a Republican defending Brian Sandoval. How do I know? Because I read every letter to the editor of the RJ in the 15 years I've lived in Las Vegas, and I've seen your name many times. Your hate towards conservatives is beyond reason. I had hundreds of letters and calls from fellow Republicans thanking me for my column about Governor Sandoval. Good luck with your letters to the editor. Maybe the RJ will publish your opinions. That's what makes America great. This will be the last time I answer anything from you. I have no time. I don't see Governor Sandoval as an Hispanic. He's a Republican. People don't run for office with Hispanic next to their name. It says Republican or Democrat next to their name. I'm a fellow Republican who doesn't like his policies, and that's the only grounds on which he was criticized from me. God bless Wayne Root. Okay, Clyde Dinkins, now stuff it up. You're a liberal, you know what. What a moron. You're a moron, Clyde Dinkins. Got that? And anytime you want to protest, bring all your Black Lives Matters protesters down right here to KBET. Come on down. You will make me the most famous radio host in America. I challenge you. I dare you. I beg you. Bring the entire liberal community down to KBET and march outside and tell them all how terrible Wayne Root is. And I'll be glad to light the flame. I'll call Fox. I'll call ABC. I'll call NBC. I'll call Fox News. I'll have TV news trucks here. Wayne Root will be going one-on-one with all of you, and I'll be the most famous guy in the world on Fox News that evening. So Clyde Dinkins, in the words of Monty Hall, come on down. Let's make a deal. Come on down, Clyde. Liberals like you make my day. You're all so dumb. You're all so ignorant. Your spelling sucks, by the way. You don't know what you're saying. You don't believe in free speech. You trample the Constitution. Come on down and debate with me one-on-one. I'll make mincemeat out of you. But bring a crowd of protesters. Fill the streets outside KBET. I dare you. Come on down. Wayne Root, WAR Now. All right, Wayne Root back again. Hey, Clyde Dinkins, you can bow and pray to my neon you-know-what. Can you imagine thinking that you're so important as a senior citizen African-American that you could CC your letter to everyone in the world? Hey, by the way, Clyde Dinkins, why did you CC Barack Obama, ex-president of the United States? I'm sure Obama would care about your letter about Wayne Root. I mean, it could be the single stupidest thing I've ever seen. He CC'd the entire world, including Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who I'd like to get on the show to talk about whether we're a sanctuary city. He's CC'ing about Wayne Root being a racist towards Hispanics. What are you talking about? You're not allowed to criticize an Hispanic governor because he's Hispanic, really. So I didn't even know he's Hispanic. I don't think of him as Hispanic. I don't care if he's Hispanic. It's the same reasoning that you can never criticize for 8 years Barack Obama because he was black. I mean, liberals are retarded. There's something wrong with them. And I apologize to anyone who is retarded for comparing you to a liberal. Because you know what? There's something wrong with somebody who writes letters like that. Can you imagine? My column about Brian Sandoval had nothing to do with ever the word Hispanic. Nothing. And that elicits a response like that. So absurd. Boy, I hope he comes down here and brings the whole Black Lives Matter crew with him, and La Raza too. Speaking of illegals, and we all know not all Hispanics are illegals, but the majority of illegals are Hispanics. 30 countries are refusing to take back illegal immigrants convicted of serious crimes. 30 countries are refusing to accept the deportations of illegal immigrants who have committed serious crimes in the U.S., according to Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar. While these countries are refusing to accept the deportation of these criminals, the U.S. government is still issuing visas and student visas to citizens of those countries. There's already a law in the books which allows the U.S. to hold visas from a country that is not taking back its criminals. But according to Cuellar, The U.S. is not enforcing it. Donald Trump, are you listening? We're not enforcing it, which is amazing. So now my intent is to go back to our committee on the appropriations and affect their funding until they do that. Cuellar, a Democratic member of the House Committee on Appropriations, a Democrat, really? A Democratic member of the House Committee on Appropriations told Atkinson that the Supreme Court has ruled that illegal immigrants arrested for criminal activity can only be held for a certain period of time before they must be released. That means you're releasing criminals into our streets because those countries refuse to take back those criminal aliens. This is a Democrat talking. I kind of like this guy. Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar. I'm assuming it's pronounced Cuellar. That's wrong. And I especially think it's even worse that this is already on the books and we're still issuing tourist visas and student visas to countries that refuse to take back their criminal aliens. This is a Democrat talking. Cuellar has not been afraid to break with some of his party leadership on immigration issues in the past. He was known as one of former President Barack Obama's fiercest critics on illegal immigration. Really? I didn't know any of this. I'm sure all of you are hearing this for the first time. There's actually a good Democrat out there. If Andrew Paul, if you're listening to the show, Andrew's not here right now. If you're listening, get me Cuellar. Get me him on this show. Texas Representative Henry Cuellar, Cuellar. I want him on WAR Now. Cuellar teamed up with Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn to help pass a bill that would speed up the deportation of unaccompanied minors. Bravo! His stance disappointed his fellow Democrats, including Harry Reid. Anyway, of course, if a country doesn't take back illegal immigrant criminals, you know what we tell the country? Go to hell. We're not letting any of your people in. There will be no visas issued. Of course. All right, time for a root rant about Harry Reid Airport. This is my commentary that will be in Thursday's RJ, the disaster of Harry Reid Airport. I'm a branding, marketing, and promotion expert. I've used branding techniques to build several million-dollar businesses and successful careers in fields as disparate as best-selling author, talk radio host, TV producer, business speaker, political commentator, and sports handicapper. I lecture on branding American style. That's the name of my speeches that I give all over the globe. Branding American style. What's the greatest brand in the world, in my opinion? Las Vegas. The brand name Vegas says fun, celebrity, glitz, glamour, gambling, golf, sex, shopping, and sunshine all in one. That's a pretty good name. That's a lot of branding. No matter where I go in the world, when I say I'm from Vegas, the reaction is amazing and instantaneous. Whomever I'm talking to smiles, laughs, and very often screams, Vegas, baby! Wow. You live there? Just the mention of those two magical words makes everyone in the world stop like I'm in one of those old E.F. Hutton television commercials. You know, everybody stops talking when they hear the word Vegas, and they start smiling. But those two magic words I'm referring to are Las Vegas, not Harry Reid. Outside America, no one has any idea who the hell Harry Reid is. Inside America, I'll bet you 90% of Democrats across this country haven't a clue who Harry Reid is. Don't believe me? Watch those man-in-the-street polls taken on Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC. They asked people who Joe Biden was last year. You know, the vice president of the United States of America for 8 consecutive years. And nobody walking on Hollywood Boulevard knew who Joe Biden was. Biden was anonymous to your typical average American. So trust me, even most Democrats haven't a clue outside of Nevada who Harry freaking Reid is. But I guarantee you that many, if not most, of the 62 million people that voted for Donald Trump know the name Harry Reid. Republicans outside Nevada despise Harry Reid. He is public enemy number one. This is a reality. It doesn't matter if you like him or if you think he brought home the bacon for Nevada, if you get mad that I just called him public enemy number one. This is about reality. This is about branding and growing Vegas tourism, not your partisan beliefs. To Republicans nationally, Harry Reid is the vicious little politician who carried Obama's water for 8 years, who shoved Obamacare down our throats, who fought for open borders and illegal immigration. There we go again. Who made sure we were all taxed and regulated to death, and in many cases, put out of business. To every Republican I know, Harry Reid is the devil personified. To many Republicans I know, he's a symbol of corruption and hyper-partisanship in Washington, D.C. By the way, I hate to break this to Democrats, but tourists in Vegas are upscale because people on welfare and food stamps, they don't tend to travel much. And our hotels are very expensive. And of course, don't forget, you're now charging every day for valet parking. And don't forget your resort fees of $50 a day. And Vegas restaurants, spas, shows, and golf courses cost a fortune. So last I checked, the typical Democratic voter who's poor and on food stamps isn't visiting Las Vegas. The tourists visiting Vegas have to have money. Our tourists are middle class and way above. A huge number of conventioneers are upscale business executives, CEOs, people that make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year. And you know what that means? A large majority of the tourists that visit Vegas every year voted for Donald Trump. Like it or not, the typical Vegas visitor, and especially the typical Vegas conventioneer, is a Republican. Now think about this for a moment. 62 million people think Harry Reid is the devil. And most of the rest of them in America have never heard of Harry Reid. And Democrats in Carson City want to rename our airport after him. Yes, you heard me. They want to rename McCarran as Harry Reid Airport. Hell of a branding idea. Democrat politicians in Carson City have one thing in common. None of them has ever run a successful business. They know nothing about branding, or in this case, about destroying a brand with a name that inspires anger and negativity. Harry Reid's name on our airport would be the worst branding disaster in business history. It would be an albatross to Vegas tourism forevermore. His name makes 62 million Republicans want to either vomit or throw stones or both. Every time the pilot announces we're beginning our descent into Harry Reid Airport, passengers will grab their throw-up bag. Is that the first reaction you want a Vegas visitor to have? We're the tourist capital of the world, and the number one rule of tourism is to keep politics out of it. Or have you noticed any Hilton, Hyatt, or Marriott hotels named after Republicans or Democrats? Our airport shouldn't remind anyone of partisan politics. The truth is, McCarran's a lousy choice too. Who the hell's McCarran? His name means nothing to over 40 million tourists a year, many of them international tourists, international travelers who've never heard of Senator McCarran. You got to be 90 years old to have ever heard of McCarran. So first, let's kill this ridiculous partisan idea of equating Vegas tourism forevermore with Harry Reid. That's a disaster waiting to happen. And secondly, let's get rid of the name McCarran too. Let's accentuate the greatest brand in the world and rename our airport Las Vegas International Airport. That's my commentary in Thursday's RJ, assuming they allow me to print it. I don't know how far Harry's tentacles go. Still, I'm Wayne Allyn, WAR Now. I know all of you listening out there are standing up, giving me a standing ovation as I speak. And I know every one of you, when you hear over the loudspeaker, we're just about to land, we're making our initial descent into Harry Reid Airport, you will grab the vomit bag with me and show them what you really think of Harry. I'm Wayne Allyn, WAR Now. All right, Wayne Allyn. I also thought I'd mention that I'll be writing a commentary about my experiences with the IRS. and how Obama sicked them on me to try and destroy my life. So how can anyone think that there's no chance that Trump is right, that he was wiretapped? Are you kidding me? The same guy who used the IRS to destroy his critics would have any sort of a problem, any conscience about wiretapping a guy running for president against his chosen candidate, Hillary Clinton, and you don't take Donald Trump's side? Are you kidding me? Of course Donald Trump was wiretapped. Of course they wiretapped Trump Tower. The New York Times said that a FISA request was granted in October, and now all of a sudden, when Donald Trump says, see, I'm wiretapped, he probably based it on reading it in the New York Times. What do liberals say? Oh, there's no wiretap. No wiretap. Then why did the New York Times say a FISA request was granted? What? First of all, why did they say a FISA request was requested in July but turned down? So Obama was trying to wiretap him in July, and then it was granted in October. That's from the New York Times, folks. Of course they came after Trump. They came after me. If they come after Wayne Root, of course they're coming after Donald Trump. How does anyone ever believe or take the side of a fraud and a criminal like Barack Obama, who used the IRS to try and destroy my life? All right, line one. Brian's on the line. Line one, Brian. You're on with Wayne Allyn. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing good, Wayne. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind today, bud?
Well, I couldn't agree more about the airport thing. I think the only thing that Harry warrants his name being on is the cul-de-sac where the House of Ill Repute is located in Searchlight, where he learned to swim as a boy.
I announced on Friday I want his name on the sewage treatment plant. I think the Harry Reid sewage treatment plant is a perfect place to put his name.
Or Yucca Mountain.
After we fund it, exactly. All right, so what's on your mind today, Brian?
One quick aside, I think you're doing a disservice to your listeners when you allow Robert to rant on about a plethora of tinfoil hat issues. I looked up the top 10 causes of death in America. It's the one he states is nowhere there. So I looked up the top 20 and the top 30. It's not even in the top 30.
Well, I'm sure what Robert... Hey, listen, I'm not defending Robert. I let people talk a little bit, and I let them vent, and I'm sure what Robert would say is it's all hidden from public view. But listen, Robert has said some very good things on the show. I don't happen to agree that pharmacists are killing Republicans. I don't happen to agree on that. I don't think they know who a Republican is. Thank God I've never been sick a day in my life, because if Robert's right, I'd be dead by now. Because if they really were killing Republicans, they'd have no trouble knowing who Wayne Root is, and they'd kill me in a second. So I don't think they're looking up, which party grandmas vote for and killing grandmas all across America. No, I don't agree with that. But I let my listeners rant a little bit, and I let them talk. And by the way, Robert has come up with some really good things that I agree with on the radio, just not that one. So I'm with you on that. I don't think pharmacists and doctors are purposely murdering Republicans in America. I don't think that's happening. Do you? No. So
no. Okay. And the main reason I called is about Tommy Lauren and the issue of life. I disagree that it's a big government, small government issue. It's a constitutional issue. It's a Bill of Rights issue. Without the right to life, you have no other right, period. And let's not forget that since Roe versus Wade, women have been equally divided. It's been 50-50. Right now it's 52% of women are pro-life, 48% are pro-choice. So by us not dealing with that issue, that's what the Democrats do. If you're a Democrat, you can't be a pro-lifer. So I agree that people should be allowed to have their own opinion, but, anybody that really studies this issue from the top to bottom knows that, we're on sound footing by being a pro-life party.
But I do believe that our 10 should include pro-choice Republicans from states like California and New York. If you're for smaller government, if you are for less government spending, if you are for less government power into your life, if you're for lower taxes, if you're for killing Obamacare, if you're for getting rid of the climate change lie, the greatest fraud of all time, if you're for sealing and securing the border, if you're for letting in less terrorists from horrible Muslim-oriented countries that have no control over terrorism and can't vet their people, and yet the one issue you disagree with me on is abortion, and you think women should have a right to do what they want to do until the third trimester, when I think all of us agree there's got to be severe limitations and you can't allow abortions or partial birth abortion. All of us in the Republican 10 agree on that. But I don't think you make a big deal out of that argument. That's my only point. That's it right there, Brian. right? I mean, if that's
And-
the only thing you disagree with me on, we're in the same team, man.
And again, those people are allowed in the Republican tent, and maybe not so much the conservative tent, but it's the Democrats who shut out everybody that disagrees with them. You won't find one governor, one congressman, anybody on the national stage in the Democrat Party that's pro-life anymore. They've all been booted out, shown the door.
Right. No question about it. You can't be pro-life and be in the Democratic Party, but I think you can be pro-choice and be in the Republican Party. But I do think that Glenn Beck is wrong now that Tomi Lahren, the beautiful blonde on Blaze TV, who is on our side on every issue I've ever seen. I've been on her show multiple times. I think she's great. And the fact that she admits on The View that she's pro-choice, do you know what that does, Brian? That endears liberal women sitting at home by the millions watching The View to the conservative movement because they think maybe we're not all completely closed-minded on the issue of abortion. I think Tomi did a service, not a disservice, to all of us, and I think it's closed-minded to kick her off or suspend her from your network because you disagree on that one view. That would be my point.
Well, I disagree with her tremendously, and I would love to educate her on the issue, but I hear what you're saying, and on that we can't agree.
Yeah, you don't kick her off the network. That's ridiculous. And that appears to be what's happening. She's suspended, and my guess is she doesn't come back at all. But we'll see. All right, Brian, thank you for the call. And by the way, I'm sure every one of you at home doesn't agree with me on every one of my issues. And I'm sure many of my listeners agree with me on almost every issue, but we might have a slight disagreement on a couple of libertarian bedroom issues. Now you just found out I'm not 100% against abortion at all times, every second of the day. I think if you take that position, women in America aren't voting for the Republican Party, which means you get Democrats, which means my taxes are 90% and I go out of business. So in the end, I just don't make a big deal about bedroom issues. People got to do what people got to do behind closed doors, and I'm just not going to get so heavily involved in that. I'm involved in fiscal issues. I'm involved in capitalism. I'm involved in the economy. I'm involved in jobs. I'm involved in saving the middle class of America. And my list just doesn't put a high priority on what decisions women make in the bedroom or in the doctor's office between them and God. It's just not a big issue for me, and it's never going to be, even though I am pro-life. I won't let anyone in my life get an abortion, but it's not my job to lecture somebody else. That's the libertarian streak in me. Got it? Wayne Allyn, WAR Now. All right, Wayne Allyn, welcome back to the last couple minutes of the show. And I wanted to get to the Democrats want to shut down the government over the border wall. Can you imagine? Look, if you are mad at, say, the death penalty, I get that. You know, I'm for the death penalty, but you're against it. Okay. Democrats want to shut down the entire government over the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Okay, I personally would defund Planned Parenthood. See, that's where I may be libertarian about the issue of pro-choice, pro-life, but I don't think government should ever pay someone or an organization to give abortions to anyone. So I would defund Planned Parenthood, at least the section of Planned Parenthood that actually performs abortions. That money should be cut out. But I could see the debate. If a Democrat wants to have a fight over that, I get it. Okay? I get it. But if you're willing to shut down the government over the money to build a wall, what does that say about the Democratic Party? Can you imagine how nutty these people are? You mean there's something wrong with a wall? Walls make good neighbors. That's why I live in gated Anthem Country Club. That's why liberals all live in fancy doorman buildings in Manhattan and Century City and Beverly Hills. That's why they have gates and walls around their homes. That's why the Pope has a wall around his home. That's why Israel built a wall between them and the Palestinians. And terrorism went from 10,000 incidents a year to under 100 because walls work. Walls make for good neighbors is the old funny line. So the idea that you would shut down the United States government because there's funding for a wall in Trump's budget, that's not hurting women and children and seniors and military who depend on their checks because you threw a hissy fit because you don't like a wall? All right, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll continue this battle, this war. Wayne Allyn, WAR Now. For all the cops out there, you be safe. God bless all of you. See you tomorrow.